Hi, I'm Karla Gordy Bristol, your host of Beverly Hills View. Welcome today, and I am excited because we are going to talk art and sculptures and wonderful fun pieces that are going around Beverly Hills and around the world. Today our guest is Ed Massey. He is an artist, sculptor, painter, and installation artist. His artwork has been shown in the Washington Post, Harper's, Art, and People's magazines, and many, many more publications around the world. You're a former athlete and also a fashion designer. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, give me that. Bring it in, bring it in. Show some love, yeah. So how, other than being hot on this warm day, how is everything feeling? You've been very busy currently in Beverly Hills with in one of your installation pieces.
We have a great installation happening right now. It's the Neon Nights in 3D, which is beautiful because things are luminescing at night, which is really rare for the projects I'm involved in. So we're very excited to be here in Beverly Hills and have fluorescence glowing.
It's so gorgeous. And I love, there's a beautiful shot that we'll show later that you have of a drone doing a beautiful shot of the lily pond here at Beverly Gardens. But I want to kind of go back and hear about how you came into being a sculptor and an artist and all these wonderful things you've accomplished and having your colors take over the world. As I see it, they really are. And you started in art and fashion, and I want to hear about the athlete first. We got to go back. I'm taking it way back because you can't be a great sculptor until you're a great athlete.
Well, athletically, my kids make fun of me now, but they're like, Dad, you don't do anything anymore. I did play a lot of sports growing up. In fact, when I grew up not far from this area, right here from this building, and was really focused only on sport. And took some art classes in between in elementary school through high school, but I ended up playing volleyball, always the shortest on my team.
Okay.
Played in college, played international competition. My kids play now, so I do touch a ball occasionally. People ask, do I touch a ball?
Yeah.
Only because my kids play volleyball, so it's a lot of fun, but pretty much removed from the sport altogether, except for watching my kids play.
Now, you grew up in Beverly Hills. As you said, you went to, Beverly Vista?
I went to Beverly Vista.
Yay, Beverly Vista.
Yay.
Yeah. And then you went on to Beverly Hills High School. Did you play sports at Beverly Hills High School?
I did. I played volleyball for 4 years.
You did volleyball there.
I played volleyball, and then from that went to play Division I volleyball later on.
Okay.
So that was fun. And then I played beach, and then played international indoor tournaments for about 8 years. So that was exciting. So
at that time, did you think you were going to just do sports? I mean, you were very much into that. Did you think you were going to maybe go on to do the Olympics, a lot of people think, or just, you know, be a professional athlete, or were you just having fun at the time and you had other aspirations?
I was serious, but not at the Olympic caliber. So, but I was very competitive in my own way, and my friends continued on to play very competitively, especially on the beach circuit. A lot of my good friends became top pro players.
Nice.
And I did not, but that's when I
that's
when I started transitioning into the fine art world, and I really removed myself completely from the sand and volleyball and really immersed myself into studio work and in the arts.
Were you taking art, you said art classes at Beverly Hills High School? I know they had great art programs back then. We were actually in high school at the same time, it turns out. We did. Yeah.
And let me tell you, that was really the beginning. Even Beverly Vista, I was taking wood shop and plastic like all the kids, but I really enjoyed those classes and then continued on in high school with ceramics, metal sculpture, painting throughout my 4 years, but didn't think I would continue in college. So undergraduate, between sports and fine art, the studio classes, there was the conflict in schedule, so I did not take any art classes. I was not permitted to take the art studio classes until graduate work later on.
Interesting. I took cartooning from Mr. Suter.
Mr. Suter,
Mr. Suter was our teacher back then, yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, those were great courses. That was really the launch for my interest in fine art.
Yeah, well, the school gives so many options. They really give students so many, and now today it's much more than we even got back then.
Yeah, it's
choices of electives, right? Yeah. So then you went on to college, and I met one of your college roommates and former classmates at Beverly High, who talked a little bit about how you guys started doing murals for your room to fill a wall. How did that come about?
That was probably the first opportunity to do collaborative work, because I was doing things on my own, like most artists, in isolation. And we had this big wall, all our rooms had this big white wall, and I looked at it and I was like, goodness, that's horrible. And we couldn't afford buying really nice anything. So we just bought some inexpensive, I think, paper, canvas.
Okay.
We all got on the ground. We all took a section, and then we rotated the canvas. So
Ah.
so Karla, if you were on that side,
Right.
you couldn't complete that element of the painting because it would rotate either
So I'd
clockwise or
start,
counterclockwise.
and then you pass it on
Yes,
for.
so
Oh,
I would get
I love it.
I would get part whatever you started, you would get whatever I started,
Right.
and then we had this nice collaborative painting that
Oh,
hung
how fun.
for a couple of years in our apartment. It was great.
Wow. Do you have pictures of that?
I don't think
Gosh,
so.
that's so great. Now, when other students that would come in and see that, did they comment that they loved it, or
They
like,
did.
what?
It was a conversation. It was
a big
very large. I
conversation
think it was
piece.
like a 10-foot by 10-foot or
Wow.
12-foot by 12-foot piece. We had a very big wall. We were fortunate
Fun.
to have a good wall.
I'm sure you were all very proud of that.
We were. We were.
So did that kind of make you go, I might turn this into more than this as a hobby, or did you just feel like, oh, it was just something fun to do, and I have other plans over here?
I was all into sports at that
You're
point.
still
So I
into
was still into
sports.
sports. But what happened was I was at UCLA later, and I was in a statistics class, and a classmate was doing some sketches, and I was like, wow, those are great. And she goes, I'm entering in the UCLA art competition. And my competitive side said, wow, I want to do that too. And that got me going. So
Okay.
that was the impetus, and I'm still very good friends with that artist. And she didn't make the final cut. I did.
Oh,
She
wow,
did not
look at
talk
that.
to me for a semester or quarter
Ooh,
system.
you knocked her out.
Knocked her out. But we're very good friends. She's a filmmaker, so
Okay.
so we stay in contact. But she got me going actually to
Wow.
continue in college.
It always takes somebody. If you dig into someone's story, there's someone that either helped or guided or gave you that inspiration or information.
Absolutely.
So once you won.
Well, I was one of the
You
finalists.
won
I
the
was one of the, out of the whole
finalists, which
student
is
body.
winning
was,
to me. If
so,
you
yeah,
make
that's
it to the
good enough.
finals, you're a winner.
Yeah, that was good.
And so at that point, what did you say? Wow, this felt good. You reached a level. Your
Yes.
competitive genes came out, and
To get acknowledged by the faculty, and it was the whole student body, graduate, undergraduate, art students.
liked your work.
I was the only non-art student, and then that kind of got me excited,
Yeah.
to say the least. And then I went into a studio for a year, locked myself in a studio, built a portfolio, and then got into graduate programs from that. So that was the launch, really. That my classmate in statistics got me going.
Oh, wow. Then you had to focus. You
Then I
knew what you were
focused.
doing.
And a year, built a portfolio. And then when I went to my art school in New York, I was the only non-fine art major in my program. I was a sociology Spanish major, played sports, and I
Yeah.
went into a completely different realm. So that was very interesting and exciting at
Yeah.
the same time.
I'm sure they were kind of like, well,
Yeah.
what are you doing over here? It's good, some
exactly
good,
right.
good stuff going over here. Was it always very colorful, which we'll see in some of the photos soon that you had very colorful art? Did you start out with the colors?
No, not really. I started off only, as a sculptor.
Okay.
So my work dealing with social
Oh, you did all
criticism.
sculpture,
It
okay.
was all sculpture, but I painted my sculptures, but they were social critical analysis of whatever was going on around me. So some tough subject matter.
The ladder, let's talk about
okay.
that. Since you're talking about tough, tell us about this piece, the ladder that you came up
So
with.
corporate ladder was done back in the late 80s, and it was installed in 1990. I was doing it as a graduate student, though no one knew I was a graduate student at that time.
Can we see it on the
And
screen?
yeah, so that was 20 feet in height. It was installed just outside of Washington, D.C. It was owned by Principal Financial Insurance Company, and within weeks, that was removed. It was the
Wow.
last sculpture or artwork that was removed after it was commissioned for permanent installation in the United States, because there was a statute that said that if an artist makes a piece specifically for a given site, the artist must approve the removal, and they didn't get my approval. But that's another story. But the thing is, I think it was too close to home for many of the vocal minority who disliked this piece.
I see. Wow.
So that was my wake-up call to
Right,
public
and then
art.
some of the others was this one of the first that you did like this?
Yes. So,
And
I'm sorry.
Then what did it inspire you to do after that?
So corporate ladder. Then from corporate ladder, I did pieces dealing with urban lifestyles, issues with gun violence, child abuse. That could be anywhere, but I was in New York at the time in the city. I was immersed by a little bit of everything, working with the DEA's office in New York with the crack cocaine was a major epidemic where my studio was in Harlem and in the late 80s, and it was just compounded in that vicinity. So I started taking a lot of visuals on the crack cocaine the youth that were trying to get out of their situations by selling the drug, and then I did projects related to a lot of urban lifestyle.
What was were you trying to maybe solve that problem or create awareness, or what was the background to creating these pieces?
For me, I feel that the strength as a visual artist is that I can expose a topic that many people may not want to read about in a periodical, before really the internet exploded.
Right.
The newspaper, you may want to skip over a particular article. Well, here, if you put a visual and very impactful visual in front, people can't do anything but see it, especially if it's in a public setting, like a street corner, which a lot of my work ends up going to.
Okay. Wow. And how was it received? You know, because it's a very sensitive subject matter that you're, you know, exposing and kind of putting in people's face to kind of address.
I get people in my face quite a bit. Very different than what I'm doing with Portraits of Hope work, which is really, it's somewhat in your face. It's meant to be. It's meant to stir dialogue. Otherwise, I failed. As a public artist, my mission is to expose a situation that many people may not want to discuss openly. Child abuse, could be sexual assault against women or men. Just a whole assortment with corporate ladder, the gender imbalance and ethnic imbalance in the workplace, especially in the late 80s when there was only one woman in a top level position. Now things have changed, but not to the degree that we'd like. I mean, that glass ceiling was definitely evident. So those were the things that I like to expose, and it was very successful in the sense that people saw it, they talked about it.
You got the dialogue going.
Got the dialogue going.
No, so you're making a difference, as well as doing something you enjoy doing. So that's always great, you know, to make a difference. There's some, then tell us about now the Portraits of Hope. Is that kind of the jump, or went to shelters? I want to make sure I get the transitions going.
Sure, so no, Portraits of Hope, shelters is currently, so I'll go back a little bit. So my transition was that doing a tremendous amount of public artwork, I wrote a children's book with a college friend of mine. She did the illustrations and I wrote it. And I was introduced to pediatric care units. I didn't, at that time in my life, no children, didn't ever work with kids in any of my work.
You weren't thinking anything about pediatrics.
Nothing children related whatsoever. And I read the book and I'd seen that the children were painting and drawing on small sheets of paper, just like healthy kids would in schools. But these kids were in isolation, many of them. They were mostly inpatients that I was visiting. And I said, goodness, that's, you know, I love that they were doing these drawings and paintings. And about maybe 6 months later, I ran by the high school, Beverly High, saw that oil tower. It was falling apart. It was 17 years old. And thought, well, maybe we could get some graduate art students to scaffold and paint it. The engineer said no. It was painted on the ground. And a few months later, I went for another run of that track. I said, goodness, I've been visiting all these kids in hospitals. We could possibly bring the walls of that building down for them to paint. And that was the marriage, and that was the inception of Portraits of Hope.
Wonderful. You were determined.
You
were like, okay, we're going to make this happen. And you did. So the work that we saw up there came from the children.
Yeah, so the Tower of Hope, what we call the Tower of Hope in Beverly Hills, which is now almost 20 years old. That was really the beginning of a program that has now included over 100,000 participants all over the country and abroad. There it is, lit up in the very beginning stages.
Beautiful work on there.
It was, we worked with thousands of children throughout the state of California, so that was a very
So their
big
work
project.
is on that tower.
That's it.
Wow.
That's their brushstrokes are on there.
That is so wonderful.
Yes, and with all our projects now with Portraits of Hope, the children and adults paint, and then we install, but we take the walls down. That was a removable structure. The only one I knew of in a metropolitan area anywhere in the world. So you can't take concrete or wood or cement down, but those vinyl panels were removable.
Wow.
So that was the,
what a fun
that's
project.
how it all started. Yeah, that's how it all started.
Very fun, because I mean, I would see that all the time and didn't know the whole background story to the children painting on that. So I love that, and I'm sure as they drove by and saw it, you made so many people feel good inside to know they had something to do with that.
Absolutely, and also for their parents, because a lot of those children were inpatients that couldn't get out, but their parents would come by, take a snapshot and say, my son did that, or my daughter did that, and that felt great.
And it carried on for years, like you said, it's been there 20 years. In that same state, I mean, that same work.
That's right, that's right. And also one other thing, we get now many participants that worked on some of our projects 10 years ago, 15, and they go, I worked on that when I was like in elementary school, and now they're either married or they've had their graduate studies completed, so it's great.
That is great.
We love that.
That is great. Yeah, you can't miss it. It's right on Olympic Boulevard and Spalding in Beverly Hills, just before you head out to Century City. Beautiful. So once you did this tower, I'm sure you gained a lot more of attention of people seeing your work and the style and the pretty designs that you did. So what came about at that point for you in your career?
So after the tower, I didn't know if I would continue on with Portraits of Hope. That was like any other of my projects I was involved in. Maybe we start and I go on to something else. But there was a situation that happened in Japan, so we went out there, and then NASA had invited us to do a project. They said, we'd like you to do a mural, and we're like, mural we could do any day. What are you doing? They said, well, we're celebrating the 100th year of flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I said, okay. Well, we want an airplane. They laughed.
From towers to
Yes,
planes.
why
You just
not,
took
right? The kids can paint. We can paint if we can bring the elements down. The FAA became our partner.
Wow.
We had to make it fly-worthy. And when you're working with children from all different parts of the country, there it is, the Tuskegee Airmen beautifully escort us in at the Centennial Celebration in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina.
Oh, so that's a show, the Tuskegee Airmen flight
Right next
escorting
to us.
that.
Yes.
Wow, look how close they are.
That's a great to me, it was one of the great cultural moments of Portraits of Hope,
That
because we have the
truly
historic
is.
Tuskegee Airmen flying by on the P-51 Mustang, and then the DC-3, the 1938 DC-3 behind it. That was all hand-painted by children, starting at Shriners Hospital in Chicago, and we traveled all the way through New York and Florida, Arizona, California. So about 1,000 kids painted that airplane, including both sides of the wings. It was
from all over the country.
All over only in hospitals. That was
in
great.
hospitals. Wow. Look at you. I love that. I love how you bring that together and show life and hope and bring joy to these kids that are going through some very tough times. Wow, I love that.
Thank you.
I'm sure people saw this plane were like, "What?"
Oh yeah, that was it was a
Gorgeous.
big hit, and also for the kids. Again, many of those kids in isolation or that were inpatients could see it because it was televised so much. They could see it on their screen. We got a lot of letters later or phone calls saying, "Hey, you know, we just saw it as John Hopkins that participated, or Walter Reed Army Medical Center. You know, where so many of the youth that were coming from bomb-torn war zones were coming for attention, or the children of some of the service women and men in battle zones." So it was really heartwarming and very exciting to see their work that they hand painted up in the sky.
Right. Oh my, who would have thought? A plane. So you were from towers to planes. Okay. So I'm afraid to ask what's next, because I know I've seen some pictures. I've seen blimps and everything you've done. So for you, how did it feel to do something like this? You know, I mean, that's remarkable for you to see on a plane that took to the skies and I mean, that must do something to you and your creative, you know, energies to say, okay, I got to take it even bigger.
Well,
you know, what did you?
No, it's always great, because from that concept or idea that could come in a flash, then you have to execute, and then it really has to be functional. And there's a lot of challenges and a lot of hurdles that not only myself, but Porch of Hope was started by my brother and myself, actually. So we're the co-founders. But not only that, but the thousands of volunteers who put their hard efforts and work in engineering and minds and creative spirit in all different disciplines, saying we can do this. Because you get enough people that say, "Oh, it can't get done. You know, you can't get a painting up in the sky and fly and not get those big Rolls-Royce engines on that DC-3 to have paint or panels come into it, or we painted the largest blimp in the Americas." How do you get that done where the children can participate? There it is.
Blimp. I mean, that's big.
That was cool. That's
big.
200 linear feet. So it was 6 stories tall, very large. We would go to a Boys and Girls Club in Arlington, Texas, paint one oval, take up the entire gym floor, maybe have 80 students participating. So that's the scale of that blimp. And they're great just because the children can say, hey, you know what? They were involved in a very high-profile civic engagement project as a youth. And then later on in years, when they're hopefully in college, they can say, I was involved in a neat team effort.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, I want to be a part of one that you have coming up. Make sure I'm on it and see it 20 years later.
Absolutely.
And be able to say that to my grandchildren, right?
We'd love to have you.
Very nice. I love that. Okay, so now you've done blimps and towers and planes. I know you've done lifeguards. So, I mean, at some point, all of this is part of Portraits of Hope and bringing life to these children who are, you know, having difficult times. So it just, you thought, is this your focus? Or, you know, did you do any other art during this period? Or was this all your brother and yourself were working on?
So Bernie and I really, everyone in Portraits of Hope, including my brother and myself, we all do different things. We have to, because we have to support our love for Portraits of Hope. So everyone has different backgrounds. So I still continue with my private artwork. And collectors fortunately take that, and that supports me to do my nonprofit work, and same with Bernie in his disciplines, mostly in education, and he gives he advises a lot of governments on different types of programs and so forth, mostly in academia. So we both work our other careers, and then with Portraits of Hope, we've worked with thousands of kids in hospitals, social service programs, kids in schools. We have a major education component, and then the adult population. So with all that, it takes a huge focus of our life right now, because we keep going from one project to the next. And but
these are big projects.
They're
and
big.
I mean, that's why I'm saying this is time consuming, and you're taking it around the world. So I'm just wondering kind of how much time you're putting into that. So your personal work that you're doing at the same time, what kind of work is the sculpting? Are you
both painting? So I'm working right now on a project while we're doing the exhibition here, and also with the LA County shelters that I'll speak about in a moment. But so I break away. So sometimes it's late nights. So if I look a little tired now, I'm sorry. I was up till the wee hours.
You look fantastic. You look great.
So I do my private work usually late nights. So I'm doing some large paintings right now that are 20-foot canvases that are fairly good size, but those are late nights. And then we do in the mornings and late afternoons. And now with the exhibition here in Beverly Hills, till about 10 o'clock at night, we're working that. So it's exciting. No complaints. No complaints.
And I know you like the color, obviously, from these pieces. So when you do your other art, do you want to involve the color as well? Is it totally different?
No, color is a huge component of my life. My mother.
I'm surprised you have the
only my watch.
Neon
only
bands
watch,
going.
only my watch.
Oh, you're usually blinking.
No,
when
yeah,
I see
exactly. The fluorescence. But no, my mother is from Mexico.
Okay.
And I was brought up really traveling to Mexico and Mexico City quite a bit my entire life, and I was exposed to the Mexican muralist of Siqueiros, Orozco, and Rivera, and I saw those potent colors, even in the architecture and the paintings in the homes and the dwellings.
Colors.
The greatest. So I was exposed to color as a youth and throughout my life, and I think that had a huge influence. And I love color, and I love the way I like candy color.
I brought a little bit of color for you today. I was hoping you'd like my little colored flowers.
Not only do I love it, but I love the tulips or the flowers because that's so much of Portraits of Hope.
Oh, yeah, you got it, and you do clothing, so
yes,
people walk around in your clothing designs.
That too. That too.
Wow, I see. Well, that's great. Well, I don't see how you have much time. You have a beautiful family. I got to meet you. Your son is very active and involved in things. Are any of your children doing art at all?
So my daughter and my son and my wife Dawn, Felix, Georgie, Dawn, they are heavily involved in Portraits of Hope. It's by nature, and they've traveled all over the country. They've traveled abroad with me. We work together. Felix is an incredible photographer. He shoots so much for Portraits of Hope aside. He shoots his own work, of course. He just got back from the Art Institute of Chicago. My daughter is a great illustrator and painter, but I don't know, she's a little younger. She may go into fashion. She may not go into, my wife writes music, so she may go into the music side.
You're just the art family. You're all caught up in it. I love it. Well, that blends well together, though, because you can definitely combine the music, the art, the fashion. I don't want you to give that, you can keep that going. And what I'd love to see one day is some of these, I mentioned the vinyl balls.
Yes.
The pictures, and I'd love to have maybe some beach balls or pool balls. People have, I don't know if we've shown a shot of that already, but those are magnificent. How large are those balls that you do? Those big vinyl, right?
Yes, the vinyl spheres from MacArthur Park. They range anywhere from 6 feet. You can see the canoe
look at the canoer. He's so
that's a lifeguard volunteer, and those are 6 foot, 5 foot, and 4 foot spheres, all hand painted. We put 2,500 at MacArthur Park, that 8 acres.
Oh my goodness.
Mayor Garcetti loved the project so much he asked us to extend it another 4 weeks, so that was an 8-week exhibition.
Look at that.
And that was a very big project. And again, even the Braille Institute, people see some of those spheres and they could see that there's texture. That texture belongs to the kids at the Braille Institute who can't see what they're painting, but they can feel their way through. So it's a beautiful for us to see the work out there when it's completed. We love seeing the work in process during installation like the canoe was doing, and of course at the culmination is always exciting for our whole group of volunteers.
Yes, I want some little mini versions of those so I can have them in my pool,
Maybe we'll do it.
You could do a
line. You may just give us an idea. Why not?
I'm telling you. And then the kids, you work with all the children. I'm sure they'd love to have a little, or you can do little balls. My mind is going here.
That's good. That's how we get it going.
That's how ideas come up, but it's endless what you can do because the artwork, first of all, is magnificent. And the colors draw people. And from what I heard around Beverly Hills, because you have a current installation at the Lily Pond, is that it makes people happy. It makes them just feel good, and that social aspect of the community coming together. And that's, really powerful, that just watching your piece can do that to people. Right?
Yeah, no, we love, right now the response has been phenomenal. Here in Beverly Hills, the Lily Pond, we want everyone to join us because it's an exhibition like we've never seen before. So in daytime it looks beautiful, but at nighttime,
at night it's gorgeous.
It's great with the black lights.
And you put the 3D glasses on.
So we put 3D glasses on. Certain colors elevate depending on the spectrum of the color of the rainbow. So it really has a nice chemistry. And on top of that, those discs will later go to the animal shelters for LA County, which is our big initiative right now, to beautify the shelters for LA County and get so many of these homeless pets into loving homes.
Right.
That's our mission right now, and we're excited by that.
Because you have, here's a picture here showing the big murals basically over the shelters all over, variety of shelters. Do you select different shelters, or is it one shelter that's all over?
So we picked really what we consider the belly of the beast in the United States, which is LA County. LA County houses 80,000 animals a year that they process. Wow. So I think it's 57 cities contract out. So with that, we said we're LA based, though we travel all over. We said, let's start with LA. The LA County Board of Supervisors, headed by Sheila Kuehl, really spearheaded and said, go Portraits of Hope, go do your thing. Right. So we're redesigning just with paint, not the buildings themselves, but all the exteriors and interiors of the LA County animal shelters. There's 7 major shelters in LA County, but they're already becoming really happy places.
Right.
So we're getting great response, and then we have collars for cats and dogs that anyone who donates with us, we distribute to the shelters so they can come out now with a colorful collar as a reminder when those dogs are walking on the street, hey, that's a shelter dog, and you know what? Go and get your next, hopefully, family friend at the shelter.
For the next 10, 20 years. But it's very inviting, you know, and it is a problem. You know, pets do need homes. Many, many animals out there need homes before they're, you know, put to sleep. And I think that makes the shelter more inviting to the public as they drive by, you know, because shelters tend to look dingy and dirty and down, and you think, dogs that are stray. I mean, and you bring a little life to that, and that's really wonderful that you do that. So I'm sure their numbers have gone up, I would imagine.
We're doing that study right now,
really?
and we've already seen an increase, and it's only been weeks actually. So it's only been weeks. So we're asking everyone, come to an LA County shelter, find a friend, whether it's a bunny, a cat, dog, a horse, because there are horses there too. There's a combination of everything, and they need loving homes, and there's more people in LA County than there are the animals in the shelter. So
absolutely,
let's get them in a home.
Yeah, with a lot of land and the ability to take care of them. Sure. A lot of loving families. NASA, what can you tell me about the project you did with NASA?
So we were invited back in 2003 to do something with NASA, and they said, do something for a wall at the centennial celebration. That's when we did the airplane. So that was the airplane project. Now, we also have another project that we may do with NASA or another space agency to do something that will culminate in space. So that we haven't talked too much about openly.
But Ed Massey's going into space. I love it.
We'd like to go up into the heavens.
I love it.
My brother's been saying too, up into the heavens. So
I like that. Bernie got a good saying there.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
So that may be one of our next. We have a big proposal for the city of Chicago. We have the federal approvals for 18 of the loop bridges. So if you know Chicago, they go more movable bridges than any other place in the world.
Oh my gosh.
And we would do the underside. So when the bridges go up 90 or 120 feet, you'd see color.
You see your design.
So
when people are dealing with traffic and frustrated and all, it just does something to you. You know, music, the arts, dance, all those things, just calm the soul, I believe.
So we want everyone coming to our studio and paint with us.
Yeah.
Calm yourselves and come and join us.
Come when you're feeling stressed, you need a little rejuvenation, come and do some painting. Where do they go for the studio?
So we're based in El Segundo at Plaza El Segundo. It's a beautiful, beautiful studio in a mall. We're next to all these restaurants and shopping, so it's not out of the way. Yeah. If you don't mind driving right past the airport near Manhattan Beach,
it's not far.
Join us. No, it's not far. It's a great family day. So we have sometimes 3 generations working together. So grandma or grandpa will be with their kids and their kids, and they're all working together. And no one can keep their painting. It's not one of those places that you keep your painting. Those paintings are going to be really utilized.
They're going into outer space. No.
Yeah, outer space, maybe. But for now, the shelter's in the pond.
It's shelter's in the pond. And so right now, as far as the Lily Pond Bold is going on, Lily Bossy has kicked off her Bold campaign for the entire month of August. So every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, people can go to the Beverly Gardens and see your art disc of these colors in the Lily Pond. And it's 3-dimensional, like you said. So everybody should really come and visit. It is magnificent. It's right on Santa Monica Boulevard in Beverly Hills. And the hours that they come, because you can see it during the day, but you want them to come at night. So right when
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock to 9:30. We usually end by 9:45. So get that hour and a half window's perfect. And one last thing. Lily Bossy, that mayor, amazing. What an energy.
Amazing.
And she's got a great vision.
You and I agree on that.
She's
totally,
amazing.
Yeah. And the community agrees, because this program that she's come up with, we were out last night actually doing the big walk, and we ended at your wonderful lily pond display there with the disc. How many discs? Over 1,000, right?
There's about 1,500 right now.
1,500 discs.
Yeah, and
Wow.
new ones will come in. So if someone painted and they say, we don't see our disc, just wait. We still have a few more weeks.
Okay.
And about 200 to 250 discs will be replaced as the exhibition continues. So not all of them are in right now, and new ones, we need some space.
Yeah, they're floating all over. It's so gorgeous. I love it. We're doing so many philanthropic projects here with the Portraits of Hope and the shelters, and it's just so remarkable. And I'm sure the community thanks you. I thank you for being here today and taking time to go over it. And is there anything that I have not brought up that you want to share that I want to make sure everybody knows about? You know, you're doing so many things.
Well, the only thing that I could, besides people coming and joining us at the Lily Pond or getting involved with our LA County Animal Shelter Initiative, is join us on our Facebook or visit us at portraitsofhope.org.
Give them all your social media, please.
Okay, so please come please come to portraitsofhope.org or visit us at Portraits of Hope on Facebook, Portraits of Hope Projects on Instagram, and join our group of thousands of volunteers, because we can use every one of you.
And before we close, I would love if we have any more shots that we didn't of the vehicles and all that. If we can just run some of his pictures before I close out, I'd love people to get a last view of several. Look at these pieces. The sheriff car, and I know you have a lifeguard
towers. We did all
the ambulance. I mean, look at that.
And those are real rescue vehicles, and that was not easy getting the government approval.
Now, where's that one?
That's Aspen and Snowmass, Colorado. We did 32 different
fire
vehicles.
trucks. I mean, you come to rescue and do a fire. It just brightens everything. These are taxi cabs. Look at that.
5,400 of those taxis
really?
in New York City. That was a big initiative.
5,400. Yes. Look at that. And this is Times Square. Look at that. Taxis going down Times Square, brightening it up. And it's already bright in New York. Now that's the way to do laundry.
That's
I love
the Bronx, East Harlem, and Washington Heights. In New York, we did 6 laundromats.
Ooh.
Yes.
Wow. Was it one franchise or just varied?
It's varied. And that's where we knock on doors and say, we'd like to do.
Hey, that's a day at the beach right
there.
That
is. So all 156 of LA County lifeguard towers.
And I saw surfboard even. So I mean, you just you're doing your own tagging. This is your own version of
Watch
tagging.
out. Karla, watch out. We may come to your neighborhood.
I love the way you tag. You're tagging the world. Yeah. You know what you're doing. Do you?
Thank you.
We see it. I'm going to see a house maybe one day.
You
do a house.
You never know.
Well, thank you again. I mean, you're so busy right now with 2 different projects going full steam, and you took some time to come and share with our community of Beverly Hills and me, and I really appreciate that. So
my pleasure.
I anxiously look forward to the project that takes us in outer space that you're doing, and all the others. So
good, thank you.
I want to have just a little piece of my artwork on that rocket, so I know it's up there. You know, that'd be great. Well, thank you, and continued blessings, and we'll see you maybe in another year with the update on what you've been doing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Karla.
All right. Well, that's another day at Beverly Hills View. We thank you for tuning in. I'm Karla Gordy Bristol, and I'll see you next time.